Hello, welcome to the asynchronous version of Nearpod is the friend you need to breathe.
Okay, so our learning goals for today is going to be about how to make interactive lessons with Nearpod, how to increase student engagement within Nearpod by using certain activities and content that they have inside, and then how to create formative assessments. And so our big why, of course, when you're teaching with your students, you need to tell them a why because they want to know why things are relevant, why they're learning everything. So our why today is that we're going to increase student engagement to give students the opportunity for virtual collaboration and utilize student-centered instruction to empower students. Okay, so again, thank you those of you who got started on the welcome task. If you didn't get a chance to do the welcome task, that's okay, but make sure you join the Nearpod. And I feel like it's easier, like I said, if you use your iPad as the student view, that way then on your desktop, you can do the teacher view for collaboration. And I'm actually going to be jumping back and forth between this view and the Nearpod view. So let me exit out of this slides view. And I'm going to show you the teacher view of Nearpod. Okay, so as I mentioned, we are in Nearpod is the friend you need to breathe. So again, I'm Lucia Soto. I service 6 campuses in Northside. So that includes Bronze Station, Carson, Colonies North, Driggers, Fernandez, and Hausman. And I'm joined here today with Gilbert, and I'll let Gilbert introduce himself.
Hi everyone, good morning. My name is Gilbert Barrera, and I'm one of the newest coaches, but I am honored to serve the campuses, 7 campuses. That's Adams Hill, Allen, Adams Hill, Cody, Fisher, Forester, Glenn, and Valley High.
Thank you, Gilbert. And Gilbert's going to be manning the chat. So if y'all have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, or if I'm going a little too quickly, you can drop it in the chat and Gilbert will feel free to slow me down. I want to try to give y'all time to work in Nearpod, like I said earlier. So some of it I might go through a little quickly when I'm talking, because we know a lot of times the best way for us to learn is to do it ourselves. Okay, so this is our NISD mission and vision. So our mission is to transform the learning experience for students. Our vision is every day, every student grows in confidence, curiosity, and capability. And then this is our instructional coaching purpose. So I'm not going to read that because you have it. And I will be sharing this slides presentation in the follow-up email to those of you who fill out your attendance. Okay, so our norms is to mute your mic until it's Q&A time, or when we do our collaboration piece at the end and our reflection, then you can, of course, unmute your mic. Turn on your camera whenever possible. Of course, I know, things happen, especially if you're at home. I came to the office to work today for this because I have a toddler at home and I didn't want to be distracted with him or my husband. So we know life happens, take bathroom breaks as you need to, get water, food, whatever it might be. Listen actively and actively listen and participate, take notes in a format like we mentioned. And then most important, what is learned here leaves here. So my hope is that you learn at least one thing new today, and then you can take that back to your team. Or if you have more questions, feel free to reach out to your coach. Okay, so our agenda is going to be happiness, which is engagement through Nearpod, multiplying yourself, and that is going to be using some of the content features in Nearpod, being a difference maker, so that's using specific activities in Nearpod, and then learning to breathe by sharing it with your students, whether it's asynchronously or synchronously. And then we'll have our closing information and reflection time. Okay, so my big question is going to be, how familiar are you with Nearpod? So I'm curious to know how familiar you all are with Nearpod. So within Nearpod, on the next slide, you're going to have a poll. And this is really great for you to use with your students to be able to get some feedback from them. So it's just a quick feedback. You're going to see on my screen, since I'm sharing it as the teacher, you're going to be able to see real-time feedback. And then as your student view, you'll see what it looks like when you're answering as a student. So I'm going to push to the next slide. And I'm going to give you about a minute to fill out the question because it's just a quick poll. So you can see on my teacher view, I do have student names showing right now. But if I wanted to use this with my students, I can hide the names. So now this gives them more confidence to be able to answer a question, especially if you are asking content information, or even if you're just doing a quick poll of how are you feeling today. This is a really great way to kind of start a lesson. Would be one of those SEL questions. How are you feeling today? What's something that has made you smile today? What's something that you're concerned about today? This is a really great poll that you can put in. Of course, you don't need to put a timer if you want to give them time to think about it. But this is a really great way to just poll your kids really quick and then get that feedback. It looks like almost everyone has shared or responded. And you can see that minute went by pretty quickly because once you click it, it goes. So that's another reason why, like I said, for this purpose, I put a timer for myself and for y'all. But with your students, you may want to give them 2 or 3 minutes, depending on what your poll question is, or you don't have to put a timer at all. And I could share, if I click on share, it should be sharing the results with you so that you can see it as a student. Or I can click unshare, and then you no longer see the results. So depending on your purpose for the poll, sharing it with the students so they can see the information might be good. But if it's something that you want to keep it private, you can unshare it. And the good thing is that you will be able to see these answers even after you get out of the Nearpod activity. You can still go back and refer to these responses, because when you're doing it real time and you're with your kids, you might not be able to look at everybody's response right away.
The responses can be found in the reports section on your teacher dashboard.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and flip to the next one. So happiness, I put in here as why would we want to use Nearpod? A lot of people heard about Nearpod a few years ago, especially when we got if you've been with the district for at least 5 or 6 years, when we did our iTeach training and we all got brand new iPads, we learned about Nearpod and we kind of heard about it, but we might have forgotten about it. There's been a lot of updates to Nearpod, so I kind of wanted to give you a why you might want to use it. Or if you're like me, if you teach littles, I taught kinder. I wasn't sure I would want to use Nearpod with them, but then I did use it a couple times and they really enjoyed it. So this says engagement is at the core of learning. This is actually from our book that we read called the Distance Learning Playbook, but it's not just distance learning. It actually gives really practical ideas for any setting. It goes into really great information about like Hattie's effects. And in fact, let me go to the next one. Engagement gives you a 0.47 of Hattie's effect. And if you're familiar with Hattie, or if you're not familiar with Hattie, I have right here the barometer of influence. And so engagement is a 0.47. So that puts it right around here. And that's in the zone of desired effect. So anything that's a 0.4 or higher is going to be a positive impact on students' learning. If it is below a 0.47, so anywhere in this range, it's going to be a negative effect on students. Excuse me, not just this year, but also possibly for years to come. And I didn't put this on here, but one of the very negative effects is boredom. And so boredom is actually a negative 0.4. So that would put us in the red, obviously, over here in this area. And so that tells us how important it is for our students to be engaged with their learning. But when it comes to engagement, there are different types of engagement. So there's behavioral engagement, cognitive engagement, and emotional engagement. And most of the time when you think of engagement, you think of behavioral engagement. You know, teachers think of that as whether the kids are participating in class or turning in assignments. But just raising your hand and participating in class or submitting work through Schoology, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean that the students are fully invested and engaged in their work or what they've been learning. And you as a teacher might not get enough information just from them turning in an assignment. So we have two other types. There's cognitive engagement and emotional engagement. And you can see here, it says for cognitive engagement, it's students who seek, challenge, and self-regulate. So one of those important things is monitoring their own progress, setting goals, and solving problems. And so I think monitoring their own progress, this is something that could be used with Nearpod when students do a lesson that is asynchronous because it's at their own pace. And then you can kind of see where they are at. And then emotional engagement refers to relationships that contribute to a student's ability to learn. So this is them engaging in discussions. So similar to how we had that collaborate board, if they're engaging in those kinds of discussions, then we know that they're more engaged. Or if you're doing a breakout room and they're having to pose questions to one another and communicate, then you're also building your classroom community. So you're giving them that emotional engagement in more than one way. Okay, so now that we've talked a little bit about Hattie and I wanted to give you kind of some background information about engagement, now we're going to talk about how you can multiply yourself with Nearpod. And the way you can do that, there are 3 ways in Nearpod to multiply yourself. There is the video feature. And what that is you can actually embed your own videos and put questions with stopping points along the way. Or you can grab a video from one of Nearpod's huge and extensive library that has information, that has videos with preset questions, or you can edit the questions in those videos. There are the VR field trips or virtual reality field trips. Those are a great way to show location. So especially thinking about like science and social studies, you can show them a location and they can actually view it as a student. Excuse me. And the great thing about that is if you're using the iPad as a student, the students can actually lift up the iPad and move it around. And then it is like an immersive virtual reality field trip. And then there's audio. There's multiple ways to do the audio. And what that looks like is you can actually put just the audio file, or you can put an audio file on a slide, which is what I have on the next slide. So you can kind of see what that looks like as a student. So again, I'm going to show you that, but then I'm going to switch my screen to showing you how to create it. So we're going to do sort of an I do, you do. We're not going to do a we do together, but I'm going to give you the chance to do a you do. So right now I'm going to show you an I do, but I'm going to show you what this looks like in the student view. So this was an audio, and you can see right here, there is immersive reader. And if I click on that, it does have an immersive reader with it. So think about how powerful that can be for your students who are maybe ESL students, or if they have trouble reading, your younger students. Immersive readers are really great for that. Let me go back to the Nearpod slide. And then down here, if you click the play button, you'll be able to hear me reading what the learning goals would be. So this is something, again, you could really put for asynchronous learners, especially if they're not able to learn in the classroom with you at the time, but they're doing something asynchronously, whether that is at home virtually, or if they are in the classroom and you're doing a blended learning or rotation station, they can listen to what this slide says and then continue the work on their own. So again, you're giving them that empowerment of working on their own and being able to self-regulate themselves. Okay, so I'm going to switch from this tab to Nearpod so I can show you how we would do this. So again, this is going to be my I do, and then I'll give you time to do a you do. So this is my Nearpod dashboard as a teacher view. And if I come over here to create and I go to lessons, this is how I'm going to get started with creating my Nearpod. Now, if you have the free version, you're going to want to start this way. Any campus that has the premium version, and I'll talk more about that later, you can do a slides add-on. But for purpose of continuity, I'm going to show you everything you can do as a free version. So this is my blank canvas that I can start out with. I'm going to hit add content. And so this is what I was talking about. A way to multiply yourself is using the video format. And you can see automatically it takes you to the Nearpod video library. And the great thing is there are things in here based off of grade levels, but excuse me, you can also do a search through subjects, grade levels over here. So you can really filter through. You can even do it through standards. So if I wanted to come over here and select Texas, the greatest state, and then I could come over here and look for my TEKS. Let's see, ELAR. And here are some videos. And again, I might want to narrow this down based on a grade level that I teach. So let's say second grade. So let's just do this one, okay? Verbs. So you can see here's a video already created. So that's one less step that I need to take in creating a video or pre-creating one. Right here on the blue dot, I have a multiple choice question that's already embedded. So it says, which of these words is a verb? I can click on it, edit right here. Duh. So I can click edit and I can change this question if I want to. So which of these words is a verb? Cat, sing, green. I could add more answers, more answer choices. I could even delete this activity, or I could change this question completely. And then I can click save. And that's the stopping point where students will have to answer that question after watching part of the video. So if you're familiar with Edpuzzle, it's very similar to Edpuzzle where they would have to kind of watch the video to get to that stopping point and that question. It's not exactly the same, but similar. And then I have another question over here. This one is an open-ended question, and it says, identify the verb in the following sentence. And so students would have to respond to that. So now you have kind of two cool activities all within one activity, if that makes sense. You have the video, but not just the video. Now you have questions and stopping points within the video. And I can even add another stopping point. So let's say I watch my video and I think, you know what, at 1 minute and 5 seconds, he said something really great. So I'm going to put a question at 1 minute and 7 seconds. I can click add activity, and then I can add in my own question, an open-ended question or a multiple choice question. So this is really great for students to be able to see the video, take that stopping point, process a little bit, and then for you as the teacher to get that feedback as well. And I can even trim the video if I want to. I'm going to go ahead and save this one. Now remember, this is a video that I pulled from the Nearpod library. If I come back over here to video again, here are my other options. So there's YouTube. I can pull up a YouTube video. I can go to my videos. So that would be videos that I have saved in the Nearpod library, or I can upload a video directly. So if I have a specific lesson, think about how great it would be to put your mini lessons in here. You could put your mini lesson in here and then have stopping points with questions to get feedback from your students. You can upload your own video and then add those questions the same way that you saw when I did it with the video library. So now I'm going to show you, let me get out of this. Okay, so that was the video portion. I'm going to show you the virtual reality field trip. This one is one of my favorites because I'm like a kid when it comes to the iPad and moving it around so that I can see the different areas. If I could go on a trip right now, I would definitely go to Greece. I would go to Greece. So I'm going to click Greece right here, but you can see you can select multiple destinations. It says powered by 360 cities. So think about for fourth grade, if you're doing landforms, I could type in a Texas region and then select one of those. And if I want to preview what that's going to look like for the students, I'm going to click preview right here because, you know, just seeing the picture itself doesn't give me a good idea of what it actually looks like. So if I click on preview, it gives me the student preview version. So here's my virtual reality field trip. It does say enter VR. And so obviously if I had my iPad, I would want to enter the VR, or if you have those VR glasses, which are pretty cool, then here's what it would look like. On this screen, you can see that I can travel around this way. Again, think about if your students are using an iPad, and I should have put it in ours, and maybe I'll go ahead and add it in right now. You can move your iPad around and then you could see the different areas. If you're on a Chromebook or a laptop, you would either want to use the mouse to scroll around, or you can, you know, if you have a touch screen, you can use your finger to touch the screen. Okay, thinking about how you can use this as a teacher, you know, not just, oh, here's a pretty picture, but you could use this with questioning with your students. You know, what are some things you notice right now in the screen? We could do a lot with observations. So again, if you're doing science and social studies, or even thinking about, you know, reading and inferencing, you know, what do you think these two people are talking about? You know, do you think they live there? Do you think they're tourists? What would make you think they might be a tourist? So asking a lot of those scaffolding questions based off of what they're seeing is a great way to engage your students. And then our last one that I'm going to show you before I give you time to explore is going to be a slide. And the reason I'm starting out with the slide is because I'm going to do similar to how I did the whole learning goals. I'm going to show you how you can record the audio in there. But you can see I do have different options. I have text, video, image, or I can even put in a GIF here if I wanted to. I'm going to drop in a picture. So this is how I created the sample that you saw. Here are my learning goals. So I typed in here, learning goals, and then I just went to audio. You can upload a previously recorded audio file, or you can record directly within Nearpod. So if I want to just record right now, So if I wanted to record, I could tell my students, hi students, welcome. Today is Saturday, March 27th, 2021. Our learning goals for today are, and then I could continue. Okay, and then I'm going to save and exit. And you can see it's taking a little time because it's rendering that. Or it should have, let me see. Oh, I think it's not gonna pick it up because of Zoom right now. Okay, so for the sake of showing you, I'll do audio file. You can upload an audio file. So one that we've used before is screen record. I'm sorry, not screen record, Screencastify. You can upload an audio file straight from just Screencastify or from downloading Screencastify as an audio only clip. You could upload that by itself, or you can do, I don't remember what it's called. Online voice recorder. And that's how I did the one for the PD session, is I recorded separately on online voice recorder. I downloaded the file and then uploaded it to here. So you have multiple options for how you can do your audio file, especially you can test out to see what gives you the best quality. Okay, so I'm going to give us this stopping point. Let me get back here. Okay, so I'm going to give us this stopping point so that you can go ahead and explore. You're going to have a chance to either upload a video with the questions, or whether that's through Nearpod, YouTube, your own video, however you would like to. You could do virtual reality and or audio. I'm going to give you about 10 minutes to do this. So this is going to be kind of our little mental break and time for you to process and think about what we've discussed so far. Okay. So I'm going to go back to playing a little bit of music for you. And of course, if you cannot concentrate with music, feel free to mute it or turn off the sound. But I have our timer going right over here. If you do not, so before I start the sound, let me actually do this. If you do not already have a Nearpod account set up, let me show you how to do that just in case. I know most of you said, you've seen Nearpod and you are somewhat familiar with it. But if you have not seen Nearpod before, you're going to want to go to nearpod.com and you're going to go to teacher, sign up for free, and then you're going to want to sign up with your NISD account. So if you already have one, then you can just go to log in and then sign in with your teacher account. Okay, and if y'all have any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat, and then Gilbert or I can answer your question. So remember, you're going into content, add content and activities, and you're either going to go to video, field trip, or slide. Of course, you can feel free to explore the other ones. I'm not stopping you from doing that, but that's just what our task is right now.
One of the great challenges in this world is knowing enough about a subject to think you're right.
Got a homesick heart, but a long ways left to go. I've been doing my part, but I ain't got much to show. So I'm asking you to show me some forgiveness. It's all for you in my pursuit of happiness. Chasing that life, moving on, cause I had to prove there ain't no life worth doing what I did to you. So I'm asking you to show me some forgiveness. It's all for you in my pursuit of happiness. I've got dreams that keep me up in the dead of night, telling me I wasn't made for the simple life. There's a lot I see, but it's far in the distance. I'm asking you to show me some forgiveness. It's all for you in my pursuit of happiness. I've been working all night, maybe you could help me to believe this song ain't nothing if the song can't set you free. So I'm asking you to show me some forgiveness. It's all for you in my pursuit of happiness. I've got dreams that keep me up in the dead of night, telling me I wasn't made for the simple life. There's a lot I see, but it's far in the distance. I'm asking you to show me some forgiveness. It's all for you in my pursuit of happiness. Sometimes you leave the ones you love, but if it's love, they won't give up, cause they know a war's raging, and you gotta choose. These days are tough, these days are long, sometimes it's hard to carry on, but I hear a voice singing, and I know it's true. I've got dreams that keep me up in the dead of night, telling me I wasn't made for the simple life. There's a lot I see, but it's far in the distance. I'm asking you to show me some forgiveness. It's all for you in my pursuit of happiness. Oh, happiness, happiness. I'm singing, I'm singing, I'm singing. Oh, happiness. Your love will surely come find us like blazing wildfire, singing your name. God of mercy, sweet love of mine, I have surrendered to your design. May this offering stretch across the skies. These hallelujah to the darkness for an answer that he's never known. Yeah, isn't it amazing how God can take a broken man?
Okay, so you have about 1 more minute to kind of wrap up your thoughts and what you're doing. So I just wanted to give you all that 1 minute warning. I know it's hard when you're learning something and you want to have more time, but don't worry, I will give you more time to work on another section after I go through a little bit. So you could always go back and if you need to go back and edit any of your previous work that you've started in Nearpod, if you just double click on that slide, then it'll take you into it or that square/tile. If you double click on it, you can edit it.
Friendliest of friends of God. Yeah, isn't it amazing how a man can find himself alone?
Okay, so that wraps up our 10 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and move on. Let me get out of this part. Okay, so again, going back to our distance learning playbook that we read as a team, as a elementary coaching team, we did a book study on the distance learning playbook. And I thought this was a really great quote in there, or a really great line that they had. And it says that we need to shift the attention from the tools, which are cool and seemingly infinite, to the functions. So I feel like that's really important when it comes to teaching. You know, us as teachers, we don't want to overwhelm our students, and even teachers ourselves don't want to get overwhelmed with too many tools. So I really want to get back to the function and think about what is the most important thing our students are learning, and then we can figure out a tool that can go with that teaching strategy or with that function. And one of the reasons why I love Nearpod is because there are so many options, even within the free version itself. There's so many options of tools that you can use or functions within it to, meet your why for your students. Okay, so I have pushed on a doodle, and this is kind of a good little brain break opportunity for you. And on the teacher end, what it looks like is I actually created a slide or a picture. I dropped it into Nearpod, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a little bit. And then I just converted that slide into a draw it. So you can see right here in the student view, in the teacher view, it says awaiting drawing. Remember, I hid your names, but if you wanted to see the students' names, you could if you weren't sharing your screen. Then as you draw, and this is in real time, I'll start seeing your pictures. So it just says finish the doodle, as in you can draw whatever you want. You can draw on top of it. There are different color options that are available. There's different sizing that you can put as well. And so I can see right here, someone has started their drawing. There is going to be a little bit of a lag time, of course, but if I wanted to specifically click on this student, I have their name hidden. So obviously I just put a doodle, but think about how you could use this in your classroom. You could do something from a math problem, and students can write out the math problem. So it's one of those, making their thinking visible. You can see the steps in the process that they're taking. If you told them to write a sentence and underline the noun and, circle the verb, you could have them write a sentence, or you can do like I did. You could have the sentence already created for them, have that image, save that as an image, have it available, and then they will draw and dictate on it. Even if I did something like a line of text, kind of like a book snap, and having my students select or highlight important information in there, I could do that as well. So I'm going to give you just a little bit of time just to kind of explore. I put my timer for about 2 minutes just for you to see the different functions within the drawing tool. And, this might be sparking some ideas of how you could use this in your own classroom with your students. So I like this one. It's starting to look almost like a monster. This one over here looks like a scenic picture, which is cool with the sun and the mountains. Here, this one looks like a snail. So you can see how something great like this that's kind of open-ended is great for your students just to either one, like I said, take a brain break, or even two, you could have them, just get to be creative, because how often do they always get to be creative just out of nothing? So this is a really great way to kind of pause what you're teaching, give them a chance to be creative, decompress a little bit, and then you can continue on with the lesson. And the great thing with Nearpod is that once I move over to the next slide, then they can't keep drawing. So, how often does that happen when you're teaching? And then the students are like, no, I want to keep doing it. I want to keep doing it. And you're like, no, we got to move on. We got to move on. And you don't have to get in that power struggle of getting them to go on to the next thing. So this is really great to be able to say, okay, class, in 10 seconds, I'm going to push you on to the next slide. And then I can count down, and then I'm going to click here. And I pushed you to the next slide. So, even as adults, sometimes when we're in something, we have times when we're like, oh, I didn't get to finish. Sometimes that is hard for some students to not have that finishing time. So, putting on that timer and saying, okay, or counting down 10 seconds, then that gives them a reminder that, okay, we're moving on. Yes, Alicia, to answer your question, Nearpod does have a direct link. So I'm going to show you that when we get to the asynchronous and synchronous portion of this. I'm going to show you how you'll share it with them. Okay, so difference maker. I want to give y'all plenty of time for this. And the way that we can be a difference maker, which was one of the songs I stopped at, is to take time to create your Nearpod activities with a purpose. So we have different types of activities. And again, I got this idea about closed activities and open activities from that book that we were reading, from the Distance Learning Playbook. So thinking of a closed activity might be something like just a quiz, matching pairs, fill in the blanks, or time to climb within Nearpod. And something that might be more of an open activity would be open-ended questions, Flipgrid, or draw it. So we did the draw it. And you saw how that could be kind of open for the students, because depending on what you're putting in there, it allows for more opportunity for them to do it the way that they see it. So let me see before okay, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to flip to the next tab, or go to my Nearpod tab, and I'm going to show you how we could do a few of these as far as quiz, matching pairs, fill in the blanks, time to climb, open-ended questions, flip grid, and draw it. So we're going to get to the I do portion. I'm not going to show you all of them for the sake of time, because I really want to give you time to explore this part. And I want to make sure we don't run out of time in the presentation. So I'm going to flip over here to Nearpod. And if I click right over here, let me exit out of this. So if I am in my Nearpod and my teacher view and I'm creating something, I'm going to hit add content and activities. And this time I'm going to go to activities. So these are the different activities that I just spoke about. We did a collaborate board as our introduction, but again, it doesn't have to be something just that you could do for introduction. And collaborate board would probably be more of an open activity, depending on what question you're posing for your students. And again, you could kind of think of the collaborate board similar to Padlet, where the students are collaborating on it. We did a poll already. I'm going to show you what it looks like to do an open-ended question. And so in the open-ended question, I have my toolbar. It is a very simple toolbar as far as text is concerned. I always like to make text really large for students to be able to see, and even for myself. So I could ask an open-ended question. So here's just a question that I could pose for my students. Again, if I want to edit the way it's going to look, I can do that. I can add a timer, as I said earlier, with the poll. So if I added a timer, I can give them all the way up to 99 minutes. Now, obviously, you probably wouldn't want to give them that long. If they are doing it asynchronously, you know, you could give them about 10 minutes to respond to this. I can add an image, an audio, or other media. So if I wanted to read the question to the students, which I think is a really great option, I can hit audio recorder and then I could read the question. So again, thinking about those asynchronous learners, or even if you're using this in a station rotation or blended learning, you can do an audio recording, and that way the students who are unable to read the question can actually listen to you reading it for them. Or even your ESL students, I always think how great that is for those students to be able to hear you. And that's also one more connection you can then make with your students. So if you're teaching virtually, you know, then that's one more connection where they get to hear your voice. And this, I think, is one of the greatest things about the open-ended question. It says enable student audio recordings. So if I click this on, as a student, they can actually respond back as an audio recording. So for those students that maybe have trouble typing or writing, or, you know, it's going to take them a long time. Again, also thinking about your ESL students or your younger students, they can then respond back to this question as an audio file instead of having to type it all out. Okay, and then I just click save. And again, if I want to preview what this is going to look like as a student, I'm going to click preview. And you can see it tells me student view. So this is what it would look like to the students. And so I could type in my response. But then I can also, as the student, record what my response is. So I love, love, love that feature of the students being able to record their voice and their response. Okay, and I'm going to come back over to activities, because there's a couple more that I want to show you. A closed activity might be something like matching pairs. And you can see it says explore matching pairs library. So within the Nearpod library, you can actually pick pre-made matching pairs, which is cool. And you can see Nearpod is not just for, you know, K through 5. It says grades 9 through 12, World War II descriptions. I'm not going to do that because I would probably fail that matching pairs. But you can see that there's all these different options available. And again, you can search and filter. You can see this says grades 4 or grade 4, plant and animal behaviors vocabulary. So that's a really cool interactive way. Even though it is a closed activity, it's still a really great activity that kids enjoy doing. So I would put my instructions here, and it probably would say something as simple as match the pairs. Now, the only thing with this one is you cannot put an audio file to read what the directions are. But the cool thing about Nearpod, and I learned this when I was creating this, not this session, but like a session before this, you can click on send us suggestions. And this is what I did for here. And if you click on send us suggestions, you can actually suggest ways that they can improve their application or their program. So I put in one of those suggestions and I said, can you do an audio file for everything that you assign as a teacher, including matching pairs? Because if I'm a teacher and I'm using matching pairs for kinder, I might want to put an audio file explaining that they need to match the pairs. So I think that's really great that Nearpod has that available. Okay, if I wanted to create the matching pairs, I'm going to go to add pair. You can see I can put text or I can do an image. So if I wanted to do, just thinking about characters again with the big bad wolf, I can type in big bad wolf. I could come over here to images. I can upload an image, get one from my drive, get one from Dropbox or the cloud. We usually, keep things here. Or I can search an image via Google. And I can insert that here. Oops, I closed it instead of saved it. Okay, so I do this a lot. I always click the X. I forget sometimes you gotta scroll down and click save. Okay, so now those are my two images that I have available. I can zoom in the image or zoom out and adjust what is displayed within the box. I can hit done or I can hit add another pair. So you can see that pair was added already. No. Okay, and I'm going to hit done. And those are my pairs. Before I save it, I can already preview it as well, which I forgot to mention. So this is what it would look like for the students. I'm going to hit save. And there's a matching pair. Okay, and the last one I want to show you, because this one, of course, is really great, and that is time to climb. So this one is one of those gamifying activities. And what you can do is you add your question here, and then you can have a reference image. Again, I can have the timer or delete the timer. It says your students will have this much time to complete the activity. There are the answer choices. And if I select the correct answer that I want, I would choose one of these. So you might be wondering, what is time to climb if you've never seen it before? Time to climb is basically a game. So I'm going to select one that's already created so I can show you a different way, as opposed to me starting from scratch. So you don't see the game here yet. You don't see it until you see it in the student view. You just see the questions. So right here, it says question 5 of 5. If I click on this drop down, I'm sorry, not drop down. If I scroll up, I can see all the different questions that were already in that time to climb. And here are the answer choices that they've put and the correct answer that they selected. So again, this was pulling from one of the time to climb library choices within Nearpod. So I love that Nearpod has all these different library available. You might not have access to all of it because if you have the free account, but you will have access to some of it. And if not, you can always create your own questions. Then you can tailor and meet the needs of your students specifically in your classroom or specifically over what you've taught. If there's a question that I don't like or I don't necessarily need, I can click delete and I can delete that question completely. And then I can use the other questions. So again, kind of one of those time savers where instead of me creating a whole bunch of questions myself, I can use those. Okay, and then I'm going to save it. But this is going to be my stopping point that I wanted to give you time to be able to do it yourself. So I'm going to give you about 10 minutes for the sake of time to go through some of those activities and add it to your own Nearpod. And of course, if you have questions, feel free to drop it in the chat, or since there's only about 4 of us, you can take your mic off mute and we can help you. Either Gilbert or myself can help you. Okay, so again, I'm going to give you about 10 minutes to add activities to your teacher-created Nearpod. So this will give you time to explore. Again, I only went over a few of them because even though it's an hour-and-a-half session, since I went into things, I wanted to not rush through everything. But there are other activities that you can put in. So I just showed you 3 of them. And of course, if you need help right now, we can help you right now. Or if you want to contact your tech coach, they'll be more than happy to help you with going through each and every single activity to figure out how to do it.
Hey, real quick, Lucia, Gilbert. Okay, so when I did I found one that was already created, and I put it onto my thing, and I did the whole editing where I double clicked. But the only thing I can do is like it seems like they took a screenshot, or they did the snippet, and they just put that one slide on there. So there's nothing on there to edit it. Is that like all the time, or just what they did?
Yeah, that's all the time. So when you do the slide, so like kind of how I have it, you have to build it in slides first, have everything set that you want it, and then when you upload it, it uploads it as like a still image or a PDF.
Okay, so then in turn, if I use somebody else's thing, really those slides are what you get, because I can't change the slides because those were their slides, right?
Yeah, you'd have to just, what you have is what you have kind of thing.
Okay, gotcha.
You can do, so if I have like the text, let me see. So you're talking about like a slide, right?
Yeah, like one that was already created from the Nearpod library, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So see how like the only text option I have would be to like type directly here.
Mm-hmm. So it'd be better for me to utilize like maybe like some Google Slides that I've already created, and then I could put them in here.
Yes, yeah, I think that's the best way to do it, especially because of the way the free version is. If you have like the premium account, what you can actually do is there's a add-on in Nearpod. Excuse me, a Nearpod add-on in Slides. I said it backwards. And then you are adding it onto your slides here. But for the sake of using the free version, that's why I was showing it to you this way. So what you would have to do for the free version is you create everything in Slides first, and then you put the image here within your slide. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was just trying to see a way that, because you know, like in Blookit and in Gimkit, like you can search those, and then because I have the premium of those two, like whatever I find, I can copy it to my stuff. But then once I copy it to my stuff, I can edit it. So I can
Yeah.
take off stuff or add things or whatever. And so I was seeing like if this was the same, because I don't have the premium of Nearpod.
Yeah, no, this one's a little bit different where you can't edit what's already from the library. You just,
Yeah,
what's there is there kind of thing.
yeah.
So that's why, yeah, I would suggest doing it in your slides first, which is basically what I had to do. I did everything in slides first. When everything was completely finished, then I was able to come in and add it. And what you do is you're adding it essentially as either an image or like here, if I'm doing it as a background, it's just an image. And the way that I did it for mine specifically was I went to here where it says drag and drop any files or just upload. And I uploaded it as a PDF. And that was just because I didn't want to take the time to do slide by slide as each image individually. So I just dropped my whole PDF. And then I can't show you since I'm in it as the teacher. What it does though is it'll pull it and it'll ask you, do you want it as one page or do you want each page as a separate slide? So I did each page as a separate slide.
And then I can make each individual slide whatever I want, like drawing or whatever. Yes? Like, can I use that same, you know what I mean?
You can convert them to a draw it, which is what I did with mine. I wish I could
like
show you,
I
but since
actually
it's here.
double click it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what you do is you can convert it to a draw it. So like let's put it, this was, one of those individual slides. I can convert it to a draw it, but I can't change. So let's say, let me put in something else. So see how it says slideshow? If I double click it, oops, those X's getting. Like I can make it a slideshow like this within it, but I still can't edit whatever I already had on the slide. Basically, once it puts it in here, it's kind of mute. Like it's either just an image or just a PDF. Kind of like with Seesaw. You know what I mean? How you can't really change it. It almost basically becomes the background.
Yeah, like in Pear Deck, where you say, okay, I can make it this, but you already set up the slide as if you were going to have them draw. So you put on that slide, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? With the intent of making them draw.
Yeah, with the intent of, if you were going to do a draw it, then that's the way that you do it is you just click it and then you click convert to draw it. And then they can draw on top of it. So like if you were going to do like a math problem, you would have it set up on your slide, have that slide pulled in as like an image and then convert to draw it.
Got it. And then I can add activities in between. So like in my slides, with the intent, I could put at the bottom, okay, guys, the next one is an open-ended question about blah, 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 whatever. And then I could add that. Or the next one is a quiz, whatever. And then I could add the quiz.
Yes, exactly.
Got it.
Okay, so you have about 2 more minutes for adding in your activities. Again, if y'all have any other questions, feel free to unmute. There's only 4 of us, so you don't have to drop it in the chat.
everything I've seen, and I have felt the fire get put out by too much gasoline. We're all strangers passing through a place in time. An afternoon, life is but a vision in a window that we're peeking through. Helpless conversation with a man who says he cares a lot. It's a passive confrontation about who might throw a punch or not. We are all transgressors, we're all sinners, we're all astronauts. So if you're beating death, then raise your hand, but shut up if you're not. 'Cause I am a difference maker. Oh, I am only one who speaks to him. And I am the friendliest of friends of God. I am a difference maker. Oh, I am only one who speaks to him. And I am the friendliest of friends of God.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you about 10 seconds to wrap up your thoughts or wrap up your work and your learning. And so what I wanted to show you, I was hoping I could do it with the time to climb, but one thing I did want to show you, if you had this great lesson and you forgot to add something in there, you can, during a live session, go to add activity. You could add web content, an open-ended question, a draw it, a slide, or you can add true or false. So that's great, because even if it's something, maybe it's not something you forgot to add, but maybe it's something that you're realizing like, oh, your students are having a little bit of trouble with something. So you could really quick add in an open-ended question, and then you could get feedback from them. So what it would look like is, if I just really quick wanted to add in, I can click share. Oh, and now it's going to take some time. But you can see right now on the student end, it's going to go through and it's going to push it out to you, that question that I just added in. And so that's really great to, just in the spot, in the moment, be able to get some feedback from your students. I'm going to close the activity for the sake of time. Okay, and then it takes me right back into my slide. So I really like that, to be able to get that little, like, real in-person feedback time or feedback from your students. Okay, so, oops. So need to breathe, we need to take a little breath. I know we're getting close to our ending time. So thank you for hanging in there with me so far. And it says, how can Nearpod be used in class and or with your virtual learners? So this is when I wanted to kind of show you how you can share this with your students synchronously and asynchronously. So the way that's going to look, if I have my Nearpod, let me close back over here. Remember, this is my teacher view. I'm going to save and exit. When you hover over one of your lessons, so like this is the lesson that we're currently in, I have the option to live participate plus Zoom. You can see this is in beta. I have yet to really try this because when I clicked on it the one time, it basically started a Zoom. So I can't do it while we're in the Zoom because then it'll kick us out. But basically what it does is it starts your Nearpod and then it starts a new Zoom. That might not be the best option right now because of the way, y'all have your Zoom meetings set up. So all you have to do is go to live participation. And then you can click copy link and then you just drop it in the chat for your kids in Zoom. You can even have a co-teacher link on. I could even email it to my students, but I can just copy the link and share it that way. I can also put it in my Schoology account. And I think if you're doing this synchronously, dropping it in the chat of Zoom is your best option for doing this synchronously. If you're doing it with your kids in class, then all you have to do is tell them to go to the Nearpod, whether it's the app on the iPad or go to Nearpod, and you can see it says right here, join.nearpod.com. So if they're on a computer, they would just open a tab, or if they're on a Chromebook, open a tab and type join.nearpod.com. And then all they have to do is type in this code. So if I'm doing this asynchronously, what I would want to do, let me go back because I don't want it to kick us out of our Nearpod, the PD one. If I want to do this asynchronously, I can go to student paste. So you can see right here, it says, the same directions, go to nearpod.com or use the app. It says require student responses and prevent skipping. So that I love because now the kids do have to go in order. They can't just skip through and say like, okay, I finished it. Like, no, they have to go in order for each slide that you have. So I think that's really great. And you can see it says valid today because I started it today, and it's valid for 1 month. So I could have it open for, 29 days technically. I could have it open for 29 days. So if this was something I wanted to put in a station and I wanted to have it, for my kids to access on their own during a blended learning station or just virtually, I could have it open for a whole month. I can change the amount of days and then hit apply. I'm just going to leave it like that for now. Oops. See, those X's get me. And you can see right here, it's telling you that there are 29 days remaining. I'll go back to this one. Okay, share. Okay, and so the way I can share it within Schoology is if I go to link, I'm going to grab this Nearpod link, head over to Schoology. Now, if you have the premium account or your team or your school has the premium account, it's going to look a little bit different where you can actually just go straight through Nearpod here. I'm not going to show you that way because I know most people have only the free version. So I might want to go to add an assignment. And then I can go to my insert content link. And then I'm just going to paste it right here. And the great thing is with the iPads, if the students click on it, it'll push them straight to the iPad app, to the Nearpod app on the iPad. So you don't have to worry about them, having to do multiple clicks. It'll push them straight to, it'll push them straight to the app itself. And then, of course, they would sign in with their name, but they wouldn't have to worry about then scanning something else or logging in. One thing to note is if you need to edit a Nearpod lesson while it is actively in a student-paced version, if you click edit, it will tell you that the code will no longer be active. And editing this means that the code will be lost. This means that if you've already shared a code with your students and you need to edit something, the code is now going to change. Okay, so what does Nearpod work on? Nearpod works on laptops, desktops, Chromebooks, and iPads. So Nearpod is one of those great programs that works universally on pretty much every device. So if your students have different types of devices in the classroom, you can all still be on the same Nearpod lesson, even though they're on different apps. So I think that's really great. Different devices for you as a teacher to be able to have them all on the same thing and not have to worry about, a different way for them all to get in. Okay, so I'm not going to fully go over all of this, but this is just possible t-test tie-ins. So those of you that are, getting evaluated on t-test this year, these are possible ways that Nearpod can tie in with your t-tests. Okay, so I wanted to give you time to reflect and share. Now, I was going to put us in breakout rooms based off of this question: where would you prefer to go on vacation? However, again, since there's only a few of us today, I'm not going to push us into a breakout room, and for the sake of time, but I do still want to give you the time to reflect and kind of process what you've learned. So you can answer the question, where would you prefer to go on vacation? You can write it on there. And as Alicia was asking me earlier, if you notice, Alicia, on this one, it's the same thing. I have it all set up as the background. So like mine and Gilbert's name are already in there and they're locked, like they can't be moved around. And that's one suggestion that I did want to put for Nearpod. I would love if it had, similar to Pear Deck, a drag and drop kind of thing, because that's how this slide was originally set up in Google Slides, was a drag and drop. So if kids could do a drag and drop, that would be really great. So that's just one of those things we're going to have to suggest to Nearpod and see if they make that change. Oh, I forgot to mute my Hangouts. Okay, so if you want to go ahead and answer, where would you prefer to go on vacation? You can see I put the beach. Gilbert said he would rather explore a city. And I see some of you are writing down what would you rather do, like going to the mountains or hiking. Again, I was going to push us into breakout rooms, but I'm not going to do that. So instead, I'm going to give you time if you want to kind of share out. Let me go to the next slide. So I'm going to push us over to the next slide. If you want to share out or drop it in the chat, one topic to reflect on. So if that's one question you still have, two things you learned, or one thing you are excited to try with Nearpod. So I'm going to give you that kind of like that think time, and you can share with everybody either one question you have, two things you learned, or one thing you're excited to try with Nearpod.
I'm super excited about the fact that it has the link that I can send in the chat, because Lucia, you know what I do. And so I'm not in classrooms and all that stuff. So when I'm modeling, it's always K1 who, 2 through 5, they have everything and they can open up another tab and it's not a big deal. You know what I mean? But K1, they're like, oh, we just want it to be direct. That's why they like Whiteboard 5. That's why they like, because I can just give it to them. So I'm excited about that.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I'm glad that it's easy to share it that way too. And like I said, I like that if you are putting it into Schoology, if the students click on it, it pushes them straight to the app, as opposed to, okay, now you got to click one more thing, now you got to log in. It's one less step for them. Thank you, Jill. I'm glad you were able to have time to create. I know I really wanted to try to give you all that creation time, because I know it's one thing to sit and listen and to try to absorb, as opposed to actually doing it. And when you really do it and get that time in class or in the session, it gives you more of that process time to kind of figure out how to work it through, because y'all are busy. So, I know you don't have time to always go through everything after school. Valerie, that's a great idea to be able to take them on a virtual field trip. Like I said, if your students have iPads, or even if you have to check them out from, the lab, being able to do it on the iPad is a bit of a game changer, where you get to move around and see it on there. It's really engaging to be able to have that there. Okay, so let's go ahead and go over to the next one. So I know here the links are not active for you right now, but when I share the PDF version of the slideshow, the links will be active. So in the resources, I put in the Nearpod teacher resources. And what it does is it gives you resources if it's something you need to refer back to, like how to create the video, how to basically a lot of frequently asked questions, how to create a Flipgrid and then embed that into Nearpod. The Nearpod resources are really great because it gives you all these videos to be able to go back and see how to create different lessons. And then we have I put the Nearpod Help Center in there as well. I put in there a link that kind of goes over the differences between having a licensed or a paid account and the free account, so you can see what you get out of the free account. So for example, the free account, each of your lessons can only be 40 megabytes. It still is a lot that you can put in there, to be honest. But with the paid version, you get a bigger size for how big your lesson can be. It also tells you, how many lessons you can have on the free account versus the paid account. And then I just kind of put in here my resource of like where I got this pretty slides template, because I'm not like Gilbert and I did not create this pretty slides template. I got it from Slides Mania. And here is information about the distance learning playbook and the academic tech site. And that's what's going to be on this one. So here's our academic technology site. Again, within the slides that you'll get, if you click on this image, it'll take you to our academic tech site. We have our Twitter handle, so if you're not following us already, you can follow us. And then there is a Facebook site. And let me show you the AT site really quick. So our academic tech site has, information about academic tech. It has each of our coaching pages. But the cool thing is, if you come over here to professional learning, you can see any of our previous sessions that we've done, starting from Summer Summit last year. And you can actually go back. So if there was something that you missed out on that you want to learn more about, like increasing student collaboration with Flipgrid, you can actually go back and watch some of these. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and thank y'all again for attending.